Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Riderpiece Theater. Me, Alistair Dayhawk, and tonight, me proud to present Kamen Rider Gavv, episode 49. So guys, this is the beginning of the end, because next week, that's it. The final episode, the finale of Kamen Rider Gavv is next Sunday. And I am looking forward to the last episode because I want to know how things end. And just, it's just one of those feelings of you seeing a loved one waving goodbye to you and just like, come back. I mean, I want to see you again. But, Gavv is like saying, we have a whole year together and it's time for me to hand over the reins to somebody else to save the world. And I have to say this too before I start, is that this episode unfortunately felt underwhelming because I didn't feel like this is the end times. Like this is the end. Like we don't know who's going to live or die. Like everything is at stake here. But it just felt a bit underwhelming. But this is just my opinion. I don't know if you guys felt differently, but this is what I got. That's just my brief overall feeling about the episode as a whole. And there are some things that I want the last episode to answer. Like, are we going to get a chance to hear what Uncle Dente said in regards to Hanto, Shoma, and Sashika? Of course, we heard the last message he had for Lakita, but we never got a chance to hear the rest of the message. So I hope in the last episode we get it. There's also, in regards to Baby K, and also the mystery of the secret ingredient, but something tells me that we will never get those set answers. Unfortunately, I don't see it happening. But in any case, let us start our tale where we left off from last week. Our heroes defeated the president, and they thought that the world is saved, no more human ranch. But then Lango shows up, betraying everybody, assuming the head of the table of the Stomach family, and just taking over the president's plan, which originally was Lango's plan to begin with before the president gave him the boot. And Hanto, I believe, said, "So you lied to us, you betrayed us." And Lango said, "No, not really. We did share a common enemy in the president, but now that he's gone, you're no longer of use to me. Now that I assume, being the head of the Stomach family, everything is as it should be. So I will continue my ambitions of taking our family to new heights, and that includes, turning the world into a human ranch." Which he reveals the stolen gun that he took from the Zell, and he tells the gun it's shipping time, which activates the infected and causing them to walk as zombies, leading to this mystery location. The writers was like, okay, this SOB betrayed us, let us kick his ass, right? But Lango pointed out, okay, sure, we could fight. But as we are fighting, all those infected people are going to get turned into presses. So do you really want to fight me knowing that all those infected people are going to get turned? I mean, you could go try and save them if you can, but I'm just saying. And our heroes were like, oh, crap, he's right. But also, he forgot to mention that our heroes, I believe, they exhausted their power already. Shoma, I don't think he has any Kachizos left to use. And all three of them are badly hurt. They're injured. And so they kind of have no choice but to retreat. Lango, I believe he's either still in full strength or half strength, because let's be honest here, guys. Did Lango really make such an effort in this fight? Because the way I saw it, he just let his half-brother and the others fight his battle for him, and then all he did was stab him through with his sword, and that's all he did. I don't think our heroes would risk such a thing, so unfortunately for them, they had to retreat. And so after that, we get to the next scene. It was in the middle of the night, and the street is pretty much a ghost town. Everybody's gone. And Shoma calls Sashika to make sure she's okay. And she said, yeah, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm still at the office, but I'm here to tell you that all those people who are living in the Chizuru district has all disappeared. They're gone. And Sashika added before she hanged up that, hey, come back home. And so the phone call ends, but Lakita stopped Shoma and said, look, we cannot go back to the office just yet. And I got confused as to why he said that until it hit me that the uncle could still be at the office. So I think that's why he told his friends, like, no, right now we cannot go to the office right now because his uncle is there. Uncle Candyman is there. So I think it's better to regroup at my house. He didn't actually said that, but, I was like, oh, okay. I understand why. Because can you imagine if Lakita, Hanto, and Shoma returned from their battle all bruised up, cuts and bruises all around, and then they see the uncle still at the office, assuming that he left, he's going to ask a lot of questions. And, Shoma and his friends will have to come up with something to really be like, well, they will have to come up with something to just keep him, off. But it's impossible. I just don't think they can lie their way out of that situation if they decided to go back right now, which they didn't. Speaking of the Happy Parade offices, Sashika is desperately looking for snacks, assuming that Shoma is returning, but we all know that they're not. So Sashika is looking for snacks, but there's barely anything. There's something, but there's barely anything at all. And so she decided that maybe it's time for me to make some snacks, which leaves the uncle all confused as to, like, why are you worried about making snacks at a time like this? This is where, Sashika said, well, Shoma, gets his thinking from eating snacks. So, and he's at his happy place when he's eating snacks. So I think this is the reason why I'm like, I need to find and cook some snacks for him, which causes the Candyman to really think about his sister and realizes that, hey, he reminds me of my sister when she is in sad moments. She relies on eating snacks to get her mood up, get her strength up. So this causes the uncle to be like, okay, I will help Sashika out, which he does. So we go to Dr. Nick's old house, and you see the boys in the dark, and they're coping. They're mad at themselves for not seeing Lango's betrayal. But of course, Shoma even openly admitted to them, like, even some part of me knew that he was going to betray us. It's just that I let my desperation of defeating the president cloud my judgment. And, I mean, let's be honest. Like, even if Shoma came up with a plan in case of a Lango betrayal, would that even matter, knowing that they're injured, plus they ran out of Kachizo juice. So they're injured and powerless. So even if they had a backup plan, it wouldn't have mattered. So yeah, I mean, don't beat yourself up, Shoma. You knew, but I guess that I need my brother, okay? And I couldn't defeat the president without him. So I'm desperate. He's desperate. So we're all desperate. But it is what it is. And you wouldn't have a final boss if Shoma indeed had enough strength to kill off his older brother again. So speaking of Lango, we go back to the Granute world, where Lango triumphantly returns back to the Stomach Manor, and he tells his sister-in-law to get off my chair. I'm back at gaining control of the Stomach Company and everything else in it, and you're nothing more than a spoiled brat without powers, so shut the hell up. Plus, your father is dead, bitch. And Lizelle is all like in disbelief, like, wait a minute, why are you saying that my dad is dead? Like, he is invincible. You're lying. Send my father back. Bring him back to me. But what she ended up receiving instead of, her father returning is a backhanded slap across the table. And yeah, what a backhanded slap it was, because they knocked her out cold. And it leads Jeep to go attend to her. She's unconscious. And this is where we had this conversation between brothers. Because remember, a few episodes ago, the president had the same talk that Lango is going to say to his brother, which is, hey, when are you going to let go of this deadbeat? Because I have everything now. There's no use of Jeep. When are you going to get rid of him? Lizelle places her foot down and be like, no. You're not going to tell me what to do. If I'm going to get bored of him, I should be the one to release him. So the same happened here. Lango asked Jeep, like, hey, well, now that the president's gone, you guys are powerless to do anything to stop me. And why not come work for me again? And how long are you gonna tag along with your wife? When are you gonna get rid of her? And which causes Jib to really like, he didn't say anything, of course, but Lango presented him with, hey, you can have a job back. If you want to keep her, fine, that's fine. I'll let you keep her. But the option is, for working with me, for me, is on the table if you want it. Which causes Jude to really said, he didn't really accept it or not. He just said, I need time. And so he said that, and he takes his wife away. And then we have a scene with Lango where he is saying that now that I assume command once again, now it's time for me to eye the White Castle. He wants to become president. We go back to the human world with, Hanto, Lakita, and Shoma still at the house. And Hanto is frustrated because, they're powerless right now. They don't know what to do next. And what's worse is Lakita doesn't have enough antidote to cure the infected. So that's kind of like a stick in the mud there. And then a Kachizo scout reports in and tells Shoma that it found an agent coming out from a door, but it doesn't know where it is. And so, which leads Hanto to get even more frustrated. But Lakita said, we could find the said door and we could use it to go into the door space. And then they were about to leave to find that said door on their own, which all of a sudden a rainstorm comes out. And it causes them to, I have to wait until tomorrow to find that said door because it's raining. Which causes Shoma to get an idea. Like, he looks at the glass ceiling and looks at the rain, and this is where he gets an idea. We don't know yet, but he has an idea. So we get back to the Granute world, and Lizelle returns to an empty castle, and she is yelling for her father to return, but there's nobody at the castle. She collapses on her knees. She's crying her eyes out. And all the while you see Jeeb not consoling her and just stares at her from afar, just watching her cry. And like I said before, the Stomach family doesn't know anything about love. Sad but true. So we get to, Shoma and his friends. And the Gachizo, leads them to the door, and we see an agent coming out from the door, and you see a briefcase, and you see a brief moment of our heroes just kind of sneaking behind the agent as it climbs up the stairs. But they don't follow the agent. Instead, the plan is to go through the door. But of course, before getting in there, we have a moment between the three, and Shoma starts off by thanking both of them for sticking by him for the entire year, because without them, God only knows where he would have ended up. And Hanto and Lakita said the same thing. In Hanto's case, like without Shoma, he wouldn't found a purpose after his mentor passed away. Lakita, he wouldn't have given like the second chance of redemption, or else he could have still be stuck with the stomach family and just capturing humans, tainting his little brother's memory. So they're pretty much thanking each other for just meeting each other and giving them a chance to change their lives for the better. And as I was listening to this, guys, it felt like they're not only giving thanks to each other, but also giving thanks to the audience, sticking by them for the entire year. That's how I got, this scene from. I felt like, Shoma is thanking us as well. And I don't know, it moved me for a bit. I'm like, he's thanking us, even though he's not breaking the fourth wall. But yeah, this is just saying their thank yous and their goodbyes. And then we get this weird thing that happened, because as you know, Shoma for the entire year never had the ability to open the door to the door space, because he has no access to the said doors. But then this time around he does. Because after they said their thank yous to each other, Shoma goes to the door, he waves his hand, and lo and behold, we get to see the symbol of the stomach family, and he opens the door, which causes me to go confused. I'm like, wait a minute, Shoma, how did you gain access to the doors? Like, how? Because it's impossible, right? But, I was like, okay, this is one mystery that hopefully will get resolved later, which it does. But in any case, he opens the door and they split off to their missions. Lakita and Hanto goes inside the door space into the Granute world, while Shoma stays in the human world and devises his plan to save the infected. So we go to this quick scene of the agent holding two briefcases and telling all the other agents and the Granutes that it's time to prepare for the next shipment. And then we go to the next scene with Shoma. He returns to the office and he is greeted by a table full of snacks and sweets and a sleeping Sashika. Mind you, he did not notice the Candyman still at the office because he was in the kitchen cleaning up. So he never notices his uncle. So he goes to Sashika, wakes her up, and thanks her for the treats. But he's like, hey, thank you for the treats, but I need cotton candy right now. As he was asking Sashika to make him some cotton candy, he shows Sashika his food diary and explains why he needs cotton candy, which is part of his plan, which is create a cotton candy cloud that can rain. And then this is where he gets spooked by his uncle, because he forgot that he was even there in the first place, because he assumes that he just left, to his house. And this is where the uncle really goes into Sashika and Shoma as to why, you guys are being suspicious around me, you're mysterious around me, you're trying to not tell me things, you have your secrets and you're not telling me. And this is where we get to see him connect the dots here and ask the ultimate question: are you and your friends Kamen Riders? And then we have a moment of silence, okay, Sashika and Shoma don't know what to say. They don't know how to answer that. Because they could lie, but how can they lie around this thing here? Because they can only lie for so much. And then the silence breaks when the Kachizo reports to Shoma that more people, the infected, are on the move again. And this is where Shoma is forced to confess that, yes, me, Hanto, and Lakita are Kamen Riders. And our mission is to protect people from these Granutes because we lost loved ones because of those Granutes. And we want to spare them from that fate. That's why we're helping people into killing these Granutes, and that's it, to prevent a tragedy that, they experience themselves. He was like, oh, okay. He was like, oh, I didn't expect this, but okay. And then Shoma apologizes for, lying and all. Like, sorry, I didn't tell you. And of course, the uncle's like, yeah, okay, I understand. But we didn't get the confession that, hey, I'm your nephew as well. So they're saving that for next week. But in any case, time is at the essence. Sashika went to get the cotton candy machine. Shoma is now munching on his treats while the uncle says, I will help. So in this episode, the uncle says, I will help. Okay. I mean, it's better than doing nothing. So as Sashika, Shoma, and the uncle are, doing their thing at the office, to Hanto and Lakita, they successfully enter the factory, and they are trying to, rescue the presses, but then they get interrupted by the agents, so they end up fighting the agents inside the factory. We quickly go to the next scene with Shoma. He's eating his cotton candy, and the uncle witnesses the birth of a new Kachizo. And he's like, oh, that's neat. And then we quickly go to the Granute world, where an agent reports to Lango that Hanto and Lakita has infiltrated one of its factories, and they're causing a ruckus. And this is where we get the reveal as to how Shoma now has access to the doors. It's all because of Nave. Even from beyond the grave, Nave is helping his younger brother. Because apparently before he died, Nave gave Shoma access to the doors leading up to the door space. And Lango is like, seriously, Nave? Before he gets to leave, because he said, well, I will have to deal with it myself, right? But then he stopped himself and asked the agent, wait a minute, is the red Gavv there with them? And the agent said, no, it's just those two. And this is where he has this confused look on his face, like, wait a minute. If those two are there at the factory, why isn't the red Gavv with them? What's going on? So we see, the infected, doing the zombie walk leading to their destination. You see the uncle, Shoma, and Sashika coming out from their office. And this is where we see Shoma transform into his cotton candy form, which shocks, the uncle, be like, oh, so this is your Kamen Rider form. And he then floats into the sky, and this is where we get to see his plan into motion, where he uses his special new Kachizo of his, and he activates it, and it creates a bluish, storm cloud, and you see it raining on the infected. And then all of a sudden they get cured and they run away from the rain. And this is where myself was like, what just happened here? I'm confused. What did you do, Shoma? You're so sneaky. What's going on? And then we get a flashback of where Sashika was about to make her cotton candy, right? But then Shoma stopped her and said, no, wait, before you make a new batch of cotton candy, let me add Lakita's antidote onto the brown sugar. So that's the key. He added the cure to the brown sugar, hence why the special Kanukeni Kachiza was so different from the other. That was the plan all along. And so as Shoma was making it rain, curing the infected, we see Hanto and Lakita not only rescuing all the presses and pouring them into one cart, but they also destroy the agents. So now, before they leave, they end up destroying the factory on their way out. However, you would think that they went in and out scot-free. No, it's not the case. Because as they were making their escape back to the door space, they get blocked by an army of agents. And this is where we get to see Lakita and Hanto split off. Lakita volunteered to try to defeat the army of agents, while Hanto takes the presses back to the human world and turn them back. But Hanto is like, no, you can't. There's an army there. Like, let me help you. But Lakita bluntly tells Hanto, look, you're a human. You're weak. You cannot help me. This job is for a Granute. So please go. And Hanto's last words to Lakita is, please do not die because you owe me an apology. Well, I added the apology part, but he definitely said, please do not die on me. And so he leaves with the cart, and then we get to see Lakita transform, and we see this epic fight between him and an army full of agents. And the last thing that we see from Lakita is he gets shot at the head by this agent, and of course it didn't kill him, obviously. And he does this finger thing, telling the agent, like, bring it on, bitch. Like, yeah, it will take a lot more than that to take me down. So yeah, we see this fight between him and this army, and I mean, it just goes to show that, like, Lakita, like, he is an expert fighter. Like, where did he learn how to fight? Because considering how Lakita is, he's like lazy at times, but like he fights pretty well. That's why he has the least L's out of Hanto and Shoma. But he does the bring it on thing, and he just fights, and that's the last time we ever see Lakita. And then we quickly go to Hanto, who he managed to make it into the door space, and he's waiting for Shoma because Shoma didn't show up, and he's waiting for him. And unfortunately, instead of Shoma, he gets Gavv, and we get this tug-of-war fight between the pair. And Hanto is like, wow, so now that the president's gone, you turn back to Lango's lapdog, right? And you see Gavv's like, shut up. Like, hey, here I thought you were after Shoma. Why are you after me? So, we get this tug-of-war, and it causes, Gavv to go through this door leading into the human world, and then the scene ends with Hanto facing off against Crazy Gavv. And then we get the last scene with Shoma. He has successfully saved everybody in Tokyo thanks to his, uncanny reign. And he is about to go to meet with Lakita and Hanto. But before he could, he gets greeted by his older brother, Lango. And he is impressed that his younger brother actually saved everybody. And he wonders, how did he pull it off? And Shoma gets all cheesy here because he says it was due to the power of sweets that saved the day. It was my love of human treats that saved the people this day. It's something that you will never understand. And then Lango was like, okay, well, look, you were useful to me in defeating, the president, but now you have become a threat to my new empire here, so I will have to take you down, and this time for good. And this is how the scene ends and the episode ends in a cliffhanger. So, my friends, this episode felt underwhelming for me. Of course, I'm going to watch the finale, and I'm eager to know what's going to happen with these characters that we grew up seeing within a year. There's the question of Lakita. Is he going to live? Is he going to die? If he ends up living, is he going to stay in the human world with Hanto and Shoma and Sashika? Or is he going to go back to the Granute world? Shoma, we already know that he already made his decision. He's going to stay. He's going to work with Sashika still, and also he's going to help out his uncle at the candy store, which he will inherit it pretty soon in the future, Hanto is going to inherit his mentor's company, and that's how I see it. However, the whole thing about the Granute world remains a mystery, because if Shoma becomes the sole heir, what is he going to do with the family mansion, to all the businesses? It's obvious that he's going to say no more dark treats, but is he going to turn the Stomach family around and say, I'm going to bring, the human candies, the snack, and bring them to the Granute world, and maybe, he could start a business there as well. I don't know. But the thing is, I don't see Shoma ever returning there, because he has no ties there. So I just don't see it. So it all remains like, okay, what's going to happen next week? What's going to happen to the mansion and the other properties? Because it all remains if Gavv lives. But Gavv is not a sound mind. So, whether he lives or dies, I think everything will fall to Shoma. But I don't think he has an interest in the mansion or its factories. It's just, I don't see it. And the whole idea of Shoma becoming president, it's a good idea. But again, I just don't see him moving his life from the human world back to the Granute world just to become president and keep world peace between, the Granute world and the human world. I just don't see it. And then also this whole idea of Lakita becoming president, I just don't see it either, because he's the type of guy who just, I just don't see president in his name somewhere. I just don't see it. But, it remains to be seen, right? But yeah, I'm going to be sad, because I'm going to see that last scene with Shoma, because it got leaked out. For those who haven't seen it, there is a picture going around, this final scene between Shoma holding a basket. It could be, he bought treats or he's giving out treats, I don't know. But he was holding a basket and he meets Baku, Kamen Rider Zet. And we see like a minute exchange, and then we get to see, them splitting off. But I remember in that picture, I think Baku gave a Gachizo, the Zet Gachizo. So that's like a sign like, hey, thank you for entertaining us for the entire year, saving the world. Now it's my turn. So honestly, I'm getting emotional saying this to you guys, because my God, like, Gotchard was such a disappointment, and to get a season like Gavv, even though it has its problems, it still entertained me enough to really get, emotional and be like, please don't go, get another season, but there's no season 2, so it's time to move forward to the new Kamen Rider, and hopefully with Zet and Baku, the world is in good hands, hopefully. But it's Yuya, so, it's all about who's going to die in Christmas this year. But in any case, thank you so much for listening. Give it a like if you like it, and please subscribe. And also, tell me, guys, did you like this episode? Did you dislike it? Did I miss anything? Write anything at all in the comments below. And also, give me your thoughts on what you want to happen in the finale. I'm very curious. I already said what I want to happen, but I want to hear from you guys. So, yeah. I'll see you guys at the finale next Sunday, guys. This is it. man, oh, I don't want to see it go. But you know what? I will see you there. And so long and Johnny. On to the finale, folks.